So how do you pronounce the small tsu? In Japanese alphabet, there are some characters that have like smaller versions of themselves. I could cover all of them, but I'm going to do that in a different video. Today I want to concentrate on the pronunciation of tsu when you make it smaller. So what the small tsu does is that it creates a double consonant sound. Double consonants are otherwise not found in Japanese. By itself, I would say it's kind of like a sound, but I know that's hard to really understand, so here are some examples. Nippon makes a double P sound. Motto makes a double T sound. Kekkon makes a double K sound. Hattendo, which is like my favorite cream puff bakery, makes a double T sound. Hotdogu makes a double T sound and a double G sound. Cookie makes a double K sound. So essentially it creates a double of the sound that follows.
Pokemon in Japanese versus English. So we both grew up in Canada, but we watched Japanese Pokemon, and it would be so confusing at school because everyone would know different names of them. So here are the Pokemon names in English versus Japanese. So firstly, my favorite, Hitokage,
also known as Charmander.
He has a beautiful name in Japanese, Fushigidane.
But you probably know him as Bulbasaur.
I actually really love his name as well, Hinoarashi.
But in English, it's Cyndaquil.
And the ever-energetic Warinoko,
also known as Totodile.
Finally, one of the newer gen, Pochama,
the adorable Piplup.
And if you want to hear more Pokemon in Japanese, check out my sister's video.
I don't usually stress pronunciation when I'm teaching English or Japanese, and this is why. When I was teaching English in Japan, I always had students stress about pronunciation. I always told them it was not that serious. Maybe this is because I'm coming from a multi-ethnic country, but I feel like there's always going to be accents around. And the thing is, unless the accent is terribly heavy, I feel like any native speaker with half a brain should be able to like figure out what you want to say. I would like to point out that this is not like talking about Mandarin or like other tonal languages. I personally don't think Japanese or English is heavily reliant on tone for the meaning. Now don't get me wrong, Japanese has words that overlap. For example, ame and ame. Ame is rain, ame is candy. But let's say, for example, you mess up and you say ame ga futteru. Nobody's gonna look at you and be like, what do you mean there's candy falling from the sky? Unless they're joking or just stupid. TLDR, I think pronunciation's important, but not the most important thing. Just don't stress and have fun learning the languages.
So if you've watched enough anime by now, you've probably heard of the phrase daijoubu. Daijoubu is usually translated as okay or it's okay or I'm fine. But did you know, daijoubu, depending on the context, can mean yes or no. So then how do we use daijoubu? The easiest way to use it is probably when like someone asks you, are you okay? Or like, you know, is something wrong? And you want to say I'm fine, you would be like, daijoubu or daijoubu desu. On the other hand, let's say you're at a restaurant and like the waiter wants to give you a dessert menu and you say, no, I don't want it. Dessert wa ikaga desu ka? Daijoubu desu. And that's like saying no thank you. How about when you ask someone if they want like more rice or something? Ne, cookie mo ikko tabereru? Daijoubu. That's when I wonder if it's like daijoubu as in no thank you or daijoubu as in yeah, I can have another cookie. Ready or not, here's some more Japanese slang. Today we're covering the word sorena. Sorena is a pretty relatively easy to use Japanese slang. I say easy because you can literally use it on its own. So you can use it when you agree or you can relate with something that somebody else has said. For example, アラビア語マジ難しいんだよね。それな。Example 2. お腹すいたい。焼肉食べたい。それな。Example 3. うわ、あのお客さんめんどくさいんだよね。うわ、それな。Please note that this is hard to reply to, so if you're trying to go for like a long conversation, don't use this. Also note, you probably shouldn't use this consecutively. It's kind of like if someone was like, yeah, right, after everything you say, it's kind of annoying after a while. Lastly, but most importantly, you probably shouldn't use this as someone who's in a higher level than you. Use this between your friends and family. This is the Japanese particle no, part 1 as a possessive particle. So essentially, if you use no after a noun, it's indicating belonging to that noun. It's like in English when you do an apostrophe s, and that shows possession. Okay, so for example, let's say you want to talk about like my, something you own. 私の携帯どこ? 私の携帯どこ? Okay, so what if it's someone else's item? これは妹のチョコ。これは妹のチョコ. The last example, what if the noun before the no is not a person or an animal? An example of that could be このバッグの柄かわいい。このバッグの柄かわいい。 Japanese particle no, part 2, using it as a question particle. So this is more of a casual way to form a question. You just add the no to the end of the sentence. It's really common. I feel like a lot of Japanese people do it, like I do it all the time, but it's worth noting that you don't actually need the no for the sentence to be a question. As is the case with a lot of languages, as long as you put an upwards tone at the end of the sentence, it will be a question. But nonetheless, let's hear some examples of how to use no as a question particle. Example 1. 携帯なくしたの? 携帯なくしたの? Example 2. チョコ食べないの? チョコ食べないの? And finally, something I hope for. 来年日本行くの? 来年日本行くの? Japanese particle no, part 3, using it to indicate position. So here we can use the particle no to indicate the position of something in relation to something else. For example's sake, I'm going to refer to my tea steeper thingy as my cat, my nickel, okay? So everything is going to be around the nickel. Neko no mae, neko no ushiro, neko no migi, neko no hidari, neko no yoko, 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 beside. Neko no ue, neko no shita. And there we have it. Now you can use the particle no to tell somebody if something's under the table, or beside the fridge, or on top of your car. This is how to say yesterday, today, tomorrow, and more in Japanese. Today is kyou, kyou. For example, kyou nani suru? Yesterday is kino, kino. For example, kino no anime mita? Tomorrow is ashita, ashita. For example, ashita kunaha tabetai na. Now here's some extra. Ototoi or ototsui means the day before yesterday. Ototoi. For example, ototoi pan yaita yo. Asatte means day after tomorrow. Asatte. For example, asatte mo aitai na. Shiasatte means the day after tomorrow. Shiasatte mo mata aitai na. Ototoi mo kino mo atteru kedo ashita mo asatte mo shiasatte mo aitai. So I don't like talking about toilets. Honestly, I think it's a Canadian American thing because we don't say toilet when we want to go to the bathroom. Apparently in the UK they do, but anyway, I don't like using the word toilet even in Japanese. So you will never hear me saying in Japanese even toire ittekimasu or I'm gonna go to the bathroom. So how else can you refer to the bathroom in Japanese other than toire? I always use otearai. This word comes from the word te, which is hand, and arau means wash. Technically, if you're just looking at the word, it's like place to wash your hand, but this is used to indicate a bathroom. So instead of saying toire ittekimasu, I would say otearai ittekimasu. Otearai. My favorite way to say the bathroom in Japanese. Just a little PSA for everyone who wants to correct a native Japanese speaker on how they pronounce Japanese words while speaking English. A Japanese word that's been adopted by English speakers isn't gonna sound like the original Japanese word. Okay, maybe that's confusing, but here's an example to make it a little bit more clear. For example, if someone said, "Man, I need a new futon. I punched a hole through it yesterday while watching the new anime episode of Naruto. Reading manga always makes me want to eat ramen and attend karate classes." Okay, that sounded casually racist, but it's okay, I'm Japanese. Anyway, so some weirdos are gonna complain that I'm saying those Japanese loan words incorrectly. Excuse me, but how stupid would it sound if I said this? "Man, I need a new futon. I punched a hole through it yesterday while I was watching the new anime episode of Naruto. Reading manga always makes me want to eat ramen and do karate." Right? Call us lazy, call us efficient. Japanese people, we love abbreviating words. Here are some of the abbreviations that I personally use a lot and I think are really common. Also, these ones are going to be super easy to remember because they're basically off English words. Convenience store, we say konbini. Supermarket, we say super. Remote control, we say rimokon. Air conditioning, we say aircon. Aircon. Family restaurants like Saizeriya, if you know, you know. Famiresu, Beach sandals, so like flip-flops, we say bisan. For your phone, like mobile phone or smartphone, we say sumaho. For sexual harassment, we say sekuhara. Don't ask why I ended with that one. I couldn't think of any more.